Hey, it's Whitney here with a super informal, unedited wrap up to the Healthy Balanced Vegan Body series. I did 18 episodes of that series, which you can check out in the playlist linked down below and up above. And I've been posting them every single Wednesday. And as of right now, I'm bringing that series to a close. There's a chance I might do it again, but for the foreseeable future, I think that's going to be it. And what I wanted to do with this video is to kind of summarize the top things that I learned from all the different books I read. I think I read 16 books over the course of the series, and I learned so much about my body, about health, about weight loss, fitness, getting into shape. It's really, really inspired me, and I hope that it's inspired you too if you've been following along. I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments, and I'll give you a few prompts for the comments towards the end of the video. But first I wanted to dive in, just give you a few little tidbits from some of my favorite books from this series, starting with Crazy Sexy Diet, which I've read many times, done a few videos on. This is one of my all-time favorite books, so if you haven't read this yet, I would say out of the majority of the books that I've read, I think this one is a must-have for your shelf, especially for women. It definitely has more of a female perspective on it, but the tips are so, so great. And it's about so many elements of your health. It's for preventing cancer, it's for losing weight, getting in shape, feeling your best, finding your ideal weight, whatever goal that you have. If you're new to the vegan diet, this book is so wonderful. So some of the things that I learned from here is about how Chris really emphasizes 80% alkaline food and 20% acidic. She goes into a lot of detail about what that means, but it's really helped me focus more on eating more alkaline foods, which has been so helpful. She says you shouldn't eat exclusively cooked food. She emphasizes eating a little bit of raw food every single day. I'll talk more about raw food with another book coming up. And she talks a lot about the glycemic index, which is actually a very common theme amongst many of the books in this series. So it was wonderful to hear her perspective on it, in addition to the other authors who talked a lot about that. She says that any food that has a GI of 60 or below is a good choice for you. She also says, and this is something else a lot of people agree on, a lot of these authors, is that alcohol can sabotage your weight loss goals, your health goals. So she really says avoid alcohol, and if you're going to have it in super moderation. That came up over and over and over again in these books. And I don't drink excessively, but it's definitely keeping me more mindful when I do want to drink. I have to kind of think like, how important is it? Do I really need to have some alcohol right now? I don't fully believe that you ever need to have alcohol. It's just sometimes we really want it, and it's a great opportunity to step back and say, am I choosing to have this drink for the right reasons? She emphasizes exercising for 35 minutes a day. I don't remember why it was that precise, but apparently experts suggest 30 minutes of strength training 2 to 3 times a week. Now that's something I need to add more into my life. I'm very good about exercising every day. I walk, I hike. Now I have a rebounder, which is a special type of mini trampoline I'll be talking about in another video, but I need to find more ways to strength train, and for some reason I'm really resistant to that, but we'll talk more about some other books that have some good tips on there in a moment. She talked a lot about dry brushing. Dry brushing has become a huge part of my life, and it was really inspired from this book and at least one other in this series. If you haven't seen my morning routine video yet, I talk about dry brushing. I do it every single day, at least once a day. My skin has become so soft. It's improved my circulation. It can help get off like dead cells that could add extra weight to your body. It's really good for moving your lymphatic system, waking up your immune system. It's so, so wonderful. I love that. And water. Water is also a very consistent thing. Chris recommends consuming half your body weight in ounces of pure water each day. I'll talk a lot about water as I go through all these different books, because that's been another huge thing for me. She recommends that you don't want to consume anything but liquids until noon. Now, that really depends on when you wake up, but spending at least, I guess, like 3 to 4 hours of your day, maybe more, just drinking liquids, so juices, smoothies, and water. That's a perspective that differs from author to author, but I thought that was worth mentioning. And not consuming liquids while you're eating is something that I've been really striving to do. So I try to drink water before a meal. I'll give you some more details on that soon too. And then I try not to drink water at all after that meal to really help with my digestion digestion. That's a hard one. That's a hard habit to break. And to stop eating 3 hours before sleeping. That's something I'm really working my way up to. I tend to be like a late night snacker, so I'm working to shift that. So those are some of my favorite points from this book. And if you have been part of the newsletter series, you can go back through your emails from the Healthy Balanced Vegan Body newsletter, and you can actually see the notes from these books. If you haven't received all of the notes from the series, which are all like my detailed notes from each of the books that I read, I'm working on a way of compiling them all together, and I'll keep you posted on that. All right, next book was the Forks Over Knives plan, and this is so wonderful. There are a number of Forks Over Knives books. There's cookbooks. There's the documentary, of course. Lots of great information in here. They really encourage starch-based foods, which is also a theme in another book that I'll talk about in a moment. So things like potatoes and sweet potatoes, starchy vegetables, whole grains. They say that smoothies can be enjoyed occasionally, but should not be a major part of your diet, which is something that Chris Carr believes very differently in. And I loved this tip to begin your meals with foods that have a lower caloric density. So starting your meal with some fruit or a big salad is a good tip for weight loss. And they really follow the 80-10-10 perspective. I'll talk about that book in a moment. Having as much fruit as you like, not being concerned with that. And if you're trying to lose weight, it is very useful to track what you consume and when, which is another theme that I've seen throughout these books. This is really great, and there are some fantastic recipes in here. Of course, this book is also oil-free, which is another theme throughout many of these books, but some people advocate for having oil, and some people say don't have it at all or have it in extreme moderation. So there doesn't seem to be a super consistent perspective on that, but everybody kind of has their own opinion. Now, similar to the Forks Over Knives plan was the Starch Solution. I loved this book. I know a lot of people really love John McDougall's work. Sorry. There's so many doctors out there, I thought I said the wrong name. But he's all about centering your food around starches, adding lots of colorful starches, like different types of vegetables and fruits, whole grains, legumes, starchy vegetables, and non-starchy vegetables. And he actually says that even though things like peanuts are a legume, you want to really pay attention to those that are high in fat, because those can get in the way of you trying to lose weight. He really encourages you to increase the amount of non-starchy green, yellow, and orange vegetables you eat, and to fill the remainder of your plate with starch. So he talks all about the benefits of starch here. And some of the best tips for losing weight is to avoid all simple sugars like dried fruit and juices. That's helped me out a lot. I've decided to practically never drink juice. Basically, I drink water, occasionally things like kombucha, coconut kefir, and tea. Those are like the main drinks that I have. I rarely eat sweet drinks unless they're sweetened with something like stevia. Keep fresh fruits to 1 or 2 a day, which is a little different than the Forks Over Knives perspective. Avoid flours and flour products. Steer clear of high-fat plant foods such as nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, and soy-based fruit foods. Now, this is specifically if you're trying to lose weight. If you're not trying to lose weight, you don't really need to worry about this as much. Eat many small meals a day rather than 1 or 2 large ones. Eat a simple meal plan. Don't eat out at restaurants, which is very challenging for me because I love eating out. And exercise more frequently to burn calories and to tame an overactive appetite. So really great information in here. John really knows what he's talking about. This is such an informative book, another one of my favorites from this series. Then there's 80-10-10, which has quite the reputation. If you haven't read this yet, I really encourage you to just see for yourself, especially if you've been curious about it. So many people talk about 80-10-10, especially on YouTube. And so it's just nice to kind of get that perspective. When I read this for the first time years ago, I was just so grateful to understand it deeper than I did from just hearing people talk about it. So, of course, this is very based in the raw foods diet. 80-10-10 means 80% carbohydrates, 10% protein, 10% fat. I've tried this out myself and I've struggled sticking to it, but I really enjoy a lot of the principles of this book. And some of the points here is like things that can get in the way of you losing weight or your health is if you're eating cooked foods, heated fats, animal-based foods, grains, even if they're raw grains, and like too many nuts and seeds. So it's pretty strict in that sense. It can also be get in your way if you're eating poorly combined foods, which is something that I want to learn more about, food combining. That came up a few times in this series. Smoking or taking drugs, drinking alcohol, coffee, carbonated drinks, not exercising and not getting enough sleep, and being really stressed out, angry, fearful, or having negative emotions. I'll talk about that last tip in a moment. That is like the tip of the iceberg for this book. I do think that this is worth a read, and there are some really nice recipes in here. If you're really unsure how to eat this way, the recipes have helped me out a ton, and they're super simple to make. Next, I covered Skinny Bitch. I don't have the copy with me right now. That book is mainly like a really good guide for if you're brand new to veganism, if you're kind of dipping your toe in, and it's been so popular. There's a ton of information about weight loss in there. They also emphasize the importance of avoiding alcohol, mainly because it can really interrupt your digestive system. And coffee is another thing they encourage you to avoid, which came up a ton in these books. I'm not a huge coffee drinker. I'll have it every once in a while as a treat, but I'm not hooked on it like a lot of people. If you're hooked on coffee and you're worried about your health, you're worried about your weight, take it from all these people. The great majority say skip the coffee, switch over to tea or another beverage like water. And that's because coffee is super acidic. Acidic foods can cause your body to produce fat cells in order to keep the acid away from your organs. One book that I feel like it was almost a little out of place in this series, although I super enjoyed this book. It's called Is Food Making You Sick? This is mainly about food sensitivities, the low histamine diet, food allergies. This was huge for me because I really struggle with those. But that can absolutely affect the way that your body looks. It just might not necessarily cause you to gain weight or lose weight necessarily, but I really adored this book. So if you struggle with some of the symptoms, like you can go check out the video or just look here on the cover. There's so many symptoms in here that you might be suffering from because you're not aware that you are having some sort of a reaction to a food. And for me, that actually caused me to look really puffy. I didn't realize I was sensitive to gluten, soy, corn, and almonds. Those are my top 4 sensitivities. When I took those out of my diet, greatly minimized them, it made a huge difference in how I felt and how I looked. So it's important to know those things. One tip in there, though, that stuck with me is to prepare food immediately prior to eating it, not consuming leftovers or any dishes prepared in the previous days. That's because sometimes eating leftovers you're getting the bacteria from it, and that can cause a histamine reaction in your body, which I found very fascinating. So I'm a big fan of leftovers. I think they're a great way to save time and money, but if you're looking at it from a health standpoint, it's always nice to just eat food when it's super fresh and you know that it's going to be the best option for your body. Next up, The 22-Day Revolution, which is also a nice read. This is great because Marco has a huge history as being a celebrity personal trainer. So he has a lot of great tips on getting in shape in this book, how to lose weight properly. So some of the best tips from this book is to eat 3 mindful meals a day. That's something that people differ in opinion with in this series, because some people say eat as anytime you want, as frequently as you want. And some people say stick to 3 meals a day, which is Marco's perspective. He says to eat your dinner at least 2 hours before you go to sleep. So not quite as strict as Chris Carr's 3-hour rule. So that's a little helpful for me. And he really emphasizes eating to 80% fullness. This is another very common thing that comes up in these books. And I am striving to pay attention and know what it feels like to be 80% full. Exercise for at least 30 minutes each day. He says that successful weight loss is 75% diet and 25% exercise. And you want to exercise at least 3 times a week, another consistent tip that keeps coming up. And if you're really trying to lose weight, you want to engage in sweat-inducing cardio for 45 to 60 minutes, 6 days a week, even if it's just a brisk walk, which I have easily done. I can easily do 45 minutes, 7 days a week, and that seems to have really helped with my health and my weight. Drinking water, so avoiding drinking your calories, like the smoothies and the juices and the coffee and all these other stuff. Just focus on water. And avoiding alcohol also. And if you want to lose weight, you have to take in fewer calories and burn more calories, probably for a long time. It can take time to shift from our bad habits and the weight that our body has accumulated, so you need to be really patient with yourself and be consistent. Okay, next up, if I had to pick one book from this series, if you're looking to lose weight, especially if you're you just want the simplest tips, you want a lot of guidance, you want to learn more about being vegan, you want to help other people go vegan, I would probably say this book is the most comprehensive of all of them, because this is a 30-day plan or a 30-tip plan, however fast you want to implement it. It has probably helped me the most. Like the tips in here, I was just able to try one after another and really stick to. Some of my favorites were drinking at least 17 ounces or 2 cups or so of water before each meal. And I've been just drinking a ton of water in the morning, but now I'm striving to drink constantly throughout the day, especially before I eat. Have a hearty breakfast. It's really hard for me to eat breakfast for whatever reason. I'm usually just not hungry in the morning or right after I wake up, but I'm making it a priority and it's really helped with my energy. It can also increase your metabolism. Eating an apple every day for fiber and for all the nutrients of the apples. I tried that for a little while. I was really consistent and then it kind of dropped off, but maybe I'll go back into it. And speaking of fiber, doing things like eating lots of flax seeds, which also have benefits like the omega-3s in them. She recommends 2 tablespoons of flax every day. I was grinding them up and putting them onto my oatmeal. I was putting them into salads. I was finding all sorts of creative ways to do that. And I kind of fell off the bandwagon, but I'll get back on with that. Give yourself 5 minutes a day to devote to personal growth. And I have done that too. That's one thing I'm super, super consistent about right now. It's made a huge difference in my life. I talked about that in the morning routine. I'll be talking about that in the upcoming night routine video. And that has shifted so much for me, for my mood, for my self-esteem, for my energy levels. I'm really into that. She also emphasizes that 30 minutes of exercise a day and how even just 20 to 30 minutes a day can give you significant results if you're trying to get in better shape. Eating a salad every single day. She recommends 6 cups of salad every single day and eating it throughout the day. And she's also really into the low glycemic, so only eating high glycemic foods occasionally. If you're unfamiliar with the glycemic index, it's talked about so much in almost every single one of these books, so you'll learn a lot about that as it goes on. And she's also an advocate for cutting out oil from your diet. Then there was Undied, which this book also reminded me of Crazy Sexy Diet. So if you liked Crazy Sexy Diet and you haven't read this yet, this is definitely a good one. It's not entirely vegan, I will say, but it's mainly vegan. There's just a few mentions of animal products. Reading this book is what really helped me shift into drinking more water. I don't know what was happening, well, I do, but it's a long story. I was reviewing this book while I was in Palm Springs, so this is the one video you'll see where I wasn't at home. And man, I was struggling with eating junk food. I was dehydrated like crazy. I felt horrible. That was a really rough time for me. And the thing that shifted everything was when I prioritized drinking water, and I haven't looked back since. That was over 2 months ago now, and it's made a massive improvement for me. She also talks about things like cellulite, which I have a little bit of, so I've been prioritizing ways to reduce that, like drinking water, like exercising, like dry brushing. I talked about in the last video of this series the oil that I've been using, putting on my legs to help with cellulite and reduce stretch marks and all of that. I've been doing that every single day. So Megan really just helped get a lot of things for me in check. Those are just a few points of this book. It's so wonderful, and I love her attitude. Again, very similar to Crazy Sexy Diet. Then there was Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness by my pal Robert Cheek. I love this book. It was really wonderful to go through it. He's so passionate about so many things, like documenting your nutrition program, which is something I'm really aiming to do, and being consistent. Huge, huge, huge. He actually talks about that in his other book, which I'll mention in just a moment. Then there's visualization for weight loss, which I think a lot of people find a little woo-woo, but let me tell you, visualization and meditation will change your life if you do it regularly. I downloaded some of John's visualizations for weight loss that you can actually listen to, and they were phenomenal. I love listening to them, and it's just about having that positive mindset. He says it's so important to address the real reasons that your body is holding on to weight, to really dig deep, find out what is getting in the way of you getting to your ideal body and your ideal health. He's really passionate about affirmations, so saying positive things to yourself. In fact, looking in the mirror every day and telling yourself that you have a great body, that you can get in shape, that you enjoy really healthy foods, and that you don't like the unhealthy foods. He's really into picturing your ideal body and actually imagining what it feels like to have that, and to see yourself becoming fitter, healthier, calmer, and more confident and more desirable. And when you start to think this positively, it becomes so easy to eat healthy, to exercise, to do all of these things to shift it. Plus, just the simple practice of visualizing can just make profound impacts in your life in ways you may never have imagined. So give this book a try. It's wonderful. I don't have the body ecology book with me right now, but that was also great. That book was probably the strictest, maybe ties with 80-10-10. Man, that book is intense, but if you have any sort of digestive issues, which many of us do, that's like the root of so many health issues, that book is so worth a read. But let me just prep you that it's really intense, and it actually kind of negates some of the information from the other book. So I felt myself like a little unsure about what advice to take at times. She really recommends that 80% of the food on your plate should be from land or ocean vegetables, and the remaining 20% can be protein or grains and starchy vegetables. So it's interesting that it's kind of like that 80-10-10, 80-20 rule there, but a little bit of a different philosophy. Those numbers keep coming up: 80% alkaline, 20% acidic, 80% carbohydrates, 80% land ocean vegetables. That number is very popular. It's all about the majority of what you're eating there. She's a huge advocate for like when you eat foods, the food combining, for when you drink. Like she says, drink no closer than 10 to 15 minutes before a meal, and then wait an hour or longer after you eat to drink water again. That has been so challenging for me, but I've been trying, and I find that if I consistently drink water, keep myself hydrated throughout the day, that's not quite as hard. And it's about being mindful about how I eat and when I drink. And that's just kind of kept me more in tune with exactly the decisions I'm making. She's really into raw cultured vegetables, which has helped me out a lot. So now I eat things like sauerkraut and kimchi as frequently as possible. And the same thing goes with ocean vegetables. I've been incorporating things like dulse and nori and all of the crazy sea vegetables that not everybody likes. I've been trying more frequently, like sometimes raw, sometimes sprinkling the dried versions on top of foods, just being aware of those and trying to get them in as frequently as possible. Then there's the 21-Day Weight Loss Kickstart, which is a really great introductory book. I found this to be a little too simple for me. Maybe it was because I read all these other books first and I've attained all this knowledge over time. But if you want something super basic, or you want to give somebody else a really basic book, this book is great, and there's some really nice recipes in here. It really emphasizes eating fiber, about eating breakfast, eating low glycemic foods. Neil Barnard does not recommend that you restrict your calories. It's basically you can eat as much as you want as long as you're eating the right foods. And he also talks about the benefits of sleep, which is sprinkled in throughout all of these books, and I've started to prioritize more. It's amazing how sleep can be tied into our health, our energy, of course, and even weight loss. So I'm working my way up to that, and I encourage you to as well. All right, 2 more books. One is Shred It, which I just loaned to somebody else. That was also one of my favorite books of this series. I do actually recommend that over Robert's other book, Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness, because Shredded is more updated. It's got a lot more of Robert's experience woven into it. And man, I took away so much from that. He talks so much about determination and sticking to things. Like he says things like, how bad do you really want it? What are you willing to do to make it happen? Those questions have really helped me commit to getting in my best shape possible. He has this little formula that says transparency plus accountability equals consistency, adaptation, and success. So be transparent, hold yourself accountable in order to get the results that you want. He's all about drinking water. He says consuming a gallon of water every day should be a goal for all of us. Exercise for more than an hour, and then continue exercise for 15 to 30 minutes in order to burn fat. That is one of the best tips of all the books that I've read. That has helped me so much because I exercise every single day and don't always see results. When I read his book, I understood why. I often exercise for 45 minutes, maybe an hour. But now that I see that I need that full hour and then an additional 15 to 30 minutes to burn fat, that's huge. Now, some of the other experts say that 30 minutes a day is sufficient, but Robert says if you really want those true results, you need that 75 minutes to 90 minutes. So I'm working my way up to that. It's a little bit more challenging than I thought it was going to be to shift, but I'm getting there. And he also recommends that you eat starchy complex carbohydrates 2 to 3 hours before you exercise so you can digest and start to burn through them, or eat a faster burning complex carbohydrate like fruit within half an hour of exercising. So similar to that tip about drinking water before a meal and then waiting an hour after a meal, Robert's saying if you want to burn those calories, you have to plan to eat well before you exercise. And that's another thing that I've been more mindful of. Sometimes I'm just like, I'm hungry and I don't, I'm about to work out for an hour. I need the fuel, but I have to actually plan out to eat, have a great full meal with lots of whole foods, and then wait before I exercise. So I hope that helps you out too. And last but not least, Love Your Body by Talia Furman, which is a very sweet, positive book, definitely aimed towards women, younger women especially. Lots of great detailed advice in here, and there's a lot of similar themes in here, but it feels more like you're reading a book written by a good friend, which I like that feeling to it. She has some wonderful points in here. One of them was to take the time to learn about the world and the magnitude of people in the world who are facing things like poverty, oppression, abuse, all these horrible things. I mean, you turn on the news and you see there's awful things happening in the world. So it helps us get out of our own heads and stop focusing so much on what we look like, but really paying attention to the bigger issues at play. So basically, don't be superficial is her point here, is really think outside of yourself and think about how you can contribute the world and not worry so much about your appearance all the time. She says that if you're trying to lose weight, research shows that a vague sense of how much you weigh is better than knowing the exact number. And that's nice for me to hear because I don't have a scale. I barely ever weigh myself, and I feel like it's just not necessary. But it's nice to know that it's actually better for my emotional health to not know that exact number. So that was interesting. She has so much detail about food in here, and one thing that I got encouraged to do after reading this was to have more antioxidants because they can help reduce inflammation and they have all sorts of health benefits. So I'm going to be paying more attention to that in my life. And lastly, she said that research on meal frequency indicates that our bodies are no slimmer or healthier when we eat more often. In fact, as the number of times we eat per day goes up, so does our weight. And that, so many different opinions in all of these books about meal frequency. So in her opinion, and based on the research she's done, you don't need to eat that frequently. So I don't know. I guess like things like that, you kind of just have to experiment with and find out for yourself. And it all depends on what you're eating and when and how much you're eating. There's so many factors. And I hope all this information doesn't overwhelm any of you. I hope that it just goes to show there are so many different opinions, so many philosophies about how to lose weight, how to get to your ideal shape, how to get into shape, like how to build the muscle that you want, how to feel your best, all of that. I mean, it's really, to me, about that journey of accumulating lots of information, staying open-minded, experimenting, just going with the flow of your body, not using excuses, holding yourself accountable, being consistent is so huge. But you'll see that there are things that people agree upon across the board, which is to exercise at least 30 minutes every day, to drink lots of water, to eat low glycemic foods, to eat whole foods, to avoid coffee and alcohol, and to have a positive mindset. So if I had to give my best advice, that would probably summarize it. I hope you've enjoyed learning about all of these books. If you would like to see me continue this series, let me know. I'm definitely open to considering that. Maybe in a few months or so. I'm going to take a break for now. But I would love to hear from you in the comments. Which of these books did you most love hearing about? Not just in this video, but in this whole playlist. Be sure to check out all those videos over time. And have any of you bought any of these books and tried the recipes, tried the advice? Like, how is it working for you? Have any of them changed your life? I would love to hear your feedback and anything else you want to talk about. Any other tips you've gathered, any other books that have really helped you achieve your ideal weight and body shape and your best health. Whatever you want to share on these topics, I would just love it. Like, together we can pull all this information, we can support one another, cheer each other on in getting that healthy, balanced vegan body that we each want. Thank you so much for being part of this journey. Doing this series has really helped me stay accountable with my health and with my journey to get in the best shape that I can be. So I'm just so grateful that you've been here to watch it. And I just love having you watching my videos in general. I have another one coming up for you tomorrow, so stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do, so you're the first to know when I have more videos. I love to stay in touch with you through social media, so check out the links down below to all the major platforms. It's pretty much always under Eco Vegan Gal. In fact, I don't think I have this different username anywhere else. So if you type Eco Vegan Gal on your favorite social media network, chances are I'm there, and I would love to connect with you. All right, I can't wait to read your comments. I'm going to go for now, and I'll see you next time. Bye.